The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich make money work for them. That single sentence is the punch in the face Robert Kiyosaki delivers in the opening pages of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you've ever wondered why two people can work the same hours, earn the same salary, live in the same city, but end up in totally different financial realities, this book argues the answer has nothing to do with luck, talent, or intelligence. It's about mindset. It's about money habits. And most importantly, it's about the invisible rules you were taught as a child. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Millions of people are stuck in financial anxiety not because they're lazy, but because they were taught to think like the poor dad without ever knowing a rich dad even existed. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not really a book about money. It's a book about unlearning. Kiyosaki argues that the traditional path, go to school, get good grades, get a safe job, buy a house, save for retirement, is not only outdated, it's a financial trap. His core claim is bold. We are programmed from childhood to be employees, not wealth builders. The real difference between the rich and everyone else is not income, but mindset. The poor dad thinks security. The rich dad thinks opportunity. The poor dad works for money. The rich dad builds assets that pay him forever. This book isn't selling a shortcut or a hack. It's offering a new mental operating system, one that challenges almost everything you are raised to believe about work, education, and money. In this breakdown, we're not just summarizing the book, we're dissecting it like a blueprint. Here's the journey ahead. First, we'll look at the context behind the book. Who is Robert Kiyosaki? What real-life experiences shaped these lessons? And why did this book explode in the late 90s? Next, we'll break Rich Dad, Poor Dad into its core thematic pillars: the mindset of the poor, the mindset of the rich, and the advanced money concepts most summaries ignore. Then, we'll analyze the book critically. Is Kiyosaki right? What does modern data say today? What do other financial thinkers like Naval Ravikant, Thomas Sowell, or even Dave Ramsey agree or disagree with? Finally, we'll end with a powerful, practical action plan, a step-by-step, one-thing challenge you can start today to shift your own financial story. If you stay until the end, you won't just understand Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You will understand the logic behind how rich people think and how to start applying it in your own life. Why this book matters and why it hit the world like a financial earthquake. Robert Kiyosaki didn't become Robert Kiyosaki because he was a financial genius. He became Robert Kiyosaki because of failure. He was a high school kid in Hawaii, raised by a highly educated father, his poor dad, a school administrator with a PhD who believed in the classic formula: study hard, get a safe job, retire comfortably. But young Robert also had another father figure, the dad of his best friend, Mike, his rich dad. This man had no college degree, yet built a business empire through real estate, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. Kiyosaki grew up watching two intelligent men with completely opposite views on money. One followed the academic path and struggled financially. The other didn't finish high school, yet ended up owning hotels, stores, and businesses. This tension, this duality, is the beating heart of the book. Kiyosaki isn't teaching theory. He's sharing the real-world lessons he absorbed from two father figures who shaped his philosophy. Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out in 1997, right as America was entering the dot-com boom. The economy was exploding, people were quitting their jobs to trade stocks, and the middle class believed job security was a birthright. But beneath the surface, something was shifting. Pensions were disappearing. Technology was replacing traditional jobs. The cost of housing and education was rising. The old promise, work hard and the system will take care of you, was quietly dying. The timing of the book was perfect. It answered a question millions of people were feeling but couldn't articulate. Why do I work harder than ever, yet feel like I'm falling behind? The book became a global phenomenon because it didn't blame the economy, the government, or corporations. It said something radical for its time. You're not trapped. You were just taught the wrong rules. Before diving deeper, 3 key terms from the book must be crystal clear. 1. Assets versus liabilities. This is the spine of the entire book. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out. A house you live in? Liability. A rental property? Asset. This simple redefinition changed how millions view wealth. 2. Financial literacy. Not math, not accounting. Kiyosaki defines financial literacy as the ability to understand how money flows through taxes, businesses, investments, and markets. Schools teach you how to earn money, but they don't teach you how to use it. The book teaches you to understand how money actually operates. 3. The rat race. The endless cycle of work, earn, spend, borrow, repeat. Most people never escape it because they don't build assets. They just upgrade their liabilities. Understanding these 3 concepts is like switching on a light in a dark room. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. And suddenly, the rest of the book becomes a roadmap instead of a mystery. The core message of Rich Dad, Poor Dad distilled before we break it apart. At its core, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a battle between 2 philosophies about money. Not good versus evil, but traditional versus unconventional. On one side, you have the poor dad mindset. Value job security. Fear financial risk. Believe education equals income. Prioritize saving and avoiding mistakes. On the other, the rich dad mindset. Value financial independence. Use money as a tool. Believe in learning through action. Prioritize building assets that pay you forever. The book argues that mindset, not salary, is what separates the rich from everyone else. 2 people can earn the same income, but the one who understands assets, taxes, investing, and business will shape a completely different destiny. The main lesson is simple but revolutionary. Money isn't the goal, freedom is. Money is just the engine that gets you there. What the book is trying to teach. Kiyosaki's book is not a get-rich-quick manual. It's a mental reprogramming tool designed to teach 6 fundamental principles. 1. The rich don't work for money. They acquire or build things, businesses, real estate, investments, that generate income while they sleep. The poor and the middle class trade time for money. The rich trade money for more money. 2. Financial literacy is more important than a high salary. Schools train you to be a good employee. They don't teach you how taxes work, how to invest, or how to identify an asset. The book teaches you to understand how money actually operates. 3. Mindset shapes outcome. Poor dad feared failure. Rich dad embraced learning through risk. Your financial life will follow whichever mindset you adopt. 4. The power of corporations. Rich Dad teaches Robert that companies are shields, protecting wealth, reducing taxes, and multiplying opportunity. Employees pay taxes first. Business owners pay taxes last. 5. Work to learn, not to earn. Kiyosaki urges people to build skills, sales, leadership, accounting, marketing, because skills compound faster than salaries. 6. Wealth comes from assets, not paychecks. You can't save your way to freedom. You must buy or build assets that pay you continuously. In summary, Rich Dad Poor Dad is an operating system for wealth. It teaches you how to think about money, how to escape the rat race, and how to build a life where your assets, not your alarm clock, do the heavy lifting.
The heart of the book, broken down into 3 powerful pillars. Pillar 1, the problem, the invisible trap that keeps millions in the rat race. If you want to understand Rich Dad Poor Dad, you must begin with the enemy the book is fighting. And it's not the government, not inflation, not big corporations, not capitalism. The real enemy is financial ignorance, the quiet force shaping the lives of billions of people who don't even realize they're following a script someone else wrote for them. Kiyosaki frames this problem using his two father figures, and each represents a mindset that millions unconsciously adopt. 1. The poor dad mindset, the default script society gives you. Poor dad was a good man, kind, loving, educated, hardworking. He followed the traditional path: get good grades, get a staple job, climb the ladder, retire with a pension. But here's the tragedy. He did everything right, yet he never became financially free. Why? Because he lived by rules designed for a world that no longer exists. Rule number 1. Go to school to get a high-paying job. This assumes job security is guaranteed, and income solves everything. But the modern age is built on disruption, automation, outsourcing, AI, contract work, gig jobs. No job is safe. Rule number 2. Your home is your greatest asset. This belief leads people to take on the largest liability of their life, thinking it's an investment. The bank owns your home. You just maintain it. Rule number 3. The government will take care of you. This mindset was valid in the 1950s, not today. Pensions are rare. Social Security is strained. Healthcare costs can ruin families. Rule number 4. Play it safe. School teaches you avoid mistakes, avoid risk, avoid failure. But ironically, these are the exact things that prevent people from learning how money works. Poor dad's mindset isn't wrong morally, it's just financially outdated. 2. The rat race, the endless cycle. Kiyosaki describes a phenomenon most people experience but don't question. You get a job, you earn money, you spend money. Your lifestyle inflates, so you work harder to earn more to afford more liabilities. Then your debts grow, your obligations grow, your taxes grow, and suddenly you're trapped. You can't stop working because your life is too expensive to maintain. This is what Kiyosaki calls the rat race. It doesn't matter if you make $40,000 or $400,000. The trap is the same if income increases but liabilities increase faster. People upgrade cars, houses, vacations, memberships, gadgets, without building assets that pay them back. The rat race is not a treadmill. It's a cage disguised as normal life. 3. Financial illiteracy, the biggest problem schools ignore. Kiyosaki's most brutal accusation is toward the education system. Schools teach you how to work for money. They do not teach you how money works. This is the foundation of the problem. Schools don't teach taxes. Schools don't teach investing. Schools don't teach how debt works. Schools don't teach how to spot an opportunity. Schools don't teach entrepreneurship. Schools reward memorization, not innovation. Schools punish failure when failure is required to succeed. Financial literacy is not about complex math. It's about understanding cash flow, taxes, assets, liabilities, and financial strategies used by the wealthy. Most people never learn these skills, so they remain employees no matter how hard they work. 4. Emotional decision-making, fear and greed. Two emotions dominate the financially unskilled. Fear. Fear of losing money leads to avoiding opportunities. Fear of criticism leads to following the herd. Fear of uncertainty leads to job dependence. Greed. More money equals problem solved. This mindset pushes people into bigger houses, new cars, credit card debt, unnecessary expenses, long-term financial slavery. Kiyosaki's point is brutal. If your emotions control your money, you will always be poor. Why this pillar matters. You cannot understand the solution until you understand the prison. The rat race is not an economic condition. It's a psychological cage. Rich Dad's wisdom begins with breaking these invisible chains. Pillar 2, the solution. The Rich Dad mindset and financial operating system. This is the heart of the book, the actual blueprint Rich Dad taught Kiyosaki. This is not motivational fluff. It's a framework designed to reverse the default programming of the poor dad mindset. 1. The single most important concept: assets versus liabilities. Rich Dad simplifies money into one rule that permanently shifts your worldview. The rich buy assets, the poor buy liabilities. The middle class think liabilities are assets. This deceptively simple statement explains 90% of financial outcomes. What are true assets? Things that put money into your pocket. Rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, index funds, REITs, intellectual property, books, videos, patents, businesses you own, digital products, cash flow generating websites, automated online systems, royalties, notes, and lending. These produce money. They don't care if you're asleep, sick, traveling, or retired. What are liabilities? Things that take money out of your pocket. Your mortgage, your car, your credit cards, your phone plan, your vacations, your new furniture, student loans, lifestyle expenses, subscription services, eating out, bottled water, coffee, convenience habits. These drain money. The problem is that society tells you these liabilities are normal. Rich Dad's transformation begins with teaching young Robert that financial freedom is not about income. It's about cash flow. It's not about what you own, it's about whether it pays you or drains you. 2. The power of financial education. Rich Dad didn't say, "Go save more." He said, "Increase your financial IQ." Financial IQ consists of 4 core skills. Accounting, understanding the language of money. Cash flow, P&L statements, debt, equity, taxes. This skill helps you see opportunities others miss. Investing, growing your money. Stocks, real estate, businesses, commodities, digital assets. Investors seek value, not safety. Understanding markets, timing opportunities, economic cycles, interest rates, supply and demand, fear and greed indicators. Law, taxes, entities, protections, corporations versus sole proprietorship, deductions versus expenses. This is the secret sauce. Most people don't study these. The rich study all of them. 3. The importance of corporations and tax strategy. This is the most controversial aspect of Kiyosaki's teaching and also the most misunderstood. Employees pay taxes first and spend what remains. Business owners spend first and pay taxes on what remains. A corporation is not just a legal structure. It's a financial superpower. Corporations allow tax deductions, asset protection, separation of liability, lower tax rates, strategic leverage, reinforcement of wealth. Rich Dad wasn't teaching Robert how to cheat the system. He was teaching him how the system works. Most people think corporations are for the ultra-wealthy. But in reality, anyone with a small business, rental property, or side hustle can benefit.
This information is rarely taught because it gives ordinary people extraordinary power. 4. Working to learn, not to earn. Poor Dad told Robert, focus on earning a high salary. Rich Dad said, focus on building high-value skills. Skills compound, salary does not. Here are the skills Rich Dad insisted Robert learn: sales, persuasion, negotiation, leadership, management, public speaking, marketing, accounting, entrepreneurship, real estate, investing discipline. Each of these opens financial doors that salaries alone cannot. A person trained in sales can triple their income. A person who understands marketing can launch a product. A person who understands investing can grow wealth exponentially. Rich Dad taught Robert that skills create money. Jobs just provide temporary income. 5. The rule of money multiplication. The rich follow a simple loop. Make money, invest money, money returns with friends, reinvest the returns, repeat until financially free. This loop turns $1 into 10, 10 into 100, 100 into 1,000. Not quickly, but inevitably. This is how wealth quietly builds while employees feel stuck. 6. The lesson of risk, how the rich use fear differently. Rich Dad taught Robert that fear is not a signal to stop, it's a signal to study. Poor Dad avoided risk. Rich Dad managed risk. The rich ask, how can I reduce the risk? Not, how do I avoid the risk? Risk is reduced by education, mentorship, research, experience, small test investments, building slowly, diversification, legal structures, cash flow buffers. Fear doesn't go away, you just learn to use it instead of obey it. Why this pillar matters. This section is the transformation engine of the book. It replaces the poor mindset with a wealthy one, not through luck or genius, but through structure, behavior, and education.
Pillar 3. The nuance. Advanced concepts most summaries miss. This pillar makes your summary more valuable than 99% of YouTube videos. These are the deeper, lesser-known frameworks Kiyosaki introduces that fundamentally shape financial thinking. 1. The power of choosing your own reality. Rich Dad taught Robert that money is not a physical object, it's a psychological construct. The poor say, I can't afford it. The mind shuts down. The rich say, how can I afford it? The mind activates. One question closes possibilities, the other creates them. This reframing habit is the origin of innovation, entrepreneurship, and opportunity discovery. 2. The cash flow quadrant. Though from the second book, the idea begins here. Kiyosaki hints at a more advanced model. E, employee, trades time for money. S, self-employed, still trades time for money but has more control. B, business owner, owns systems that make money. I, investor, owns investments that grow money. The goal is to move from the left side, ES, to the right side, BI. That's where freedom lives. This simple diagram explains entire economies and individual destinies. 3. The concept of fast learning through failure. Rich Dad pushed Robert to try things, fail fast, learn, and adapt. Poor Dad saw failure as shameful. Rich Dad saw failure as tuition. In entrepreneurship, investing, and business, controlled failure is the fastest teacher. The people who win are not the smartest, they're the ones who can withstand embarrassment, uncertainty, and setbacks long enough to learn what works. 4. The wealth game versus the income game. Poor dad played the income game. Rich dad played the wealth game. The difference is massive. Income game. Earn more, spend more, repeat. Success is measured by salary, titles, promotions. Wealth game. Acquire assets, reduce liabilities, increase cash flow. Success is measured by freedom, time, and ownership. A person earning $60,000 per year with $2,000 per month cash flow from assets is richer than someone earning $250,000 with no assets. 5. The idea of buying time. Poor dad exchanged time for money. Rich dad used money to buy time. Buying time means having cash flow so you don't need a job, outsourcing what you hate so you can focus on growth, automating income, building leveraged systems, scaling businesses without personal sacrifice. Time is the ultimate asset. Money is the tool that buys it. 6. The silent killers of wealth: taxes and inflation. Poor dad thought taxes were inevitable. Rich dad saw them as controllable expenses. Employees pay the most taxes. Investors pay the least. Inflation is another invisible force. Your money gets weaker every year. Saving cash long-term guarantees poverty. Assets, on the other hand, grow with inflation, protecting you. This is why the middle class is shrinking, not because of politics, but financial mechanics. 7. The philosophy of staying a student. Rich dad constantly told Robert, the moment you stop learning, you start losing. This is why the wealthy read, study, attend seminars, hire mentors, build networks. The poor think education ends after school. The rich know financial education never ends. Why this pillar matters. This section separates amateurs from professionals. These are the deeper strategies that make Rich Dad, Poor Dad a philosophy, not just a beginner's guide to money. What the book gets exceptionally right. To give this book its strongest defense, we must acknowledge its undeniable impact. Rich Dad, Poor Dad has sold over 30 million copies and continues to shape global financial thinking decades after its release. That doesn't happen by accident. Here are the Steelman points, the absolute strongest ideas the book offers. 1. It exposes the flaws in traditional education. Rich Dad, Poor Dad wasn't the first to critique the school system, but he was the first to connect it directly to financial survival. He argues that schools teach obedience, not creativity. Schools teach workers, not owners. Schools punish failure instead of teaching from it. Schools ignore the realities of money. This criticism is more true today than in 1997. In a world of rising automation, global competition, and declining job security, financial literacy is no longer optional. It's oxygen. 2. It demystifies money using simple language. The brilliance of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not complexity, it's clarity. Most finance books hide behind jargon. Kiyosaki strips money down to a childlike distinction. Does it put money in your pocket or take money out? This simplicity is not naive, it's powerful. It forces readers to reevaluate every purchase, investment, and belief. 3. It teaches people to think in systems, not salaries. Traditional thinking, earn more money. Rich Dad thinking, build systems that earn more money. This pivot from labor to leverage is the essence of modern wealth building. It explains why entrepreneurs get rich, why employees plateau, why investors escape the rat race. The book pushes people to understand that wealth is a mechanical system, not a stroke of luck. 4. It reframes risk as a tool, not an enemy. Most people fear financial risk because they were never trained to manage it. Kiyosaki argues the risky thing is not investing, it's depending on a single income source for life. This point is brutally accurate. Layoffs, recessions, inflation, automation, these don't attack diversified investors. They attack employees. 5. It empowers ordinary people to pursue financial freedom. The world is full of financial gatekeepers. Kiyosaki's message is democratizing. You don't need to be rich to start, you just need to understand the game. This is why the book changed millions of lives. It made wealth feel possible even for someone with no connections, no capital, no pedigree. What the book gets wrong, or oversimplifies.
Even great books have weaknesses, and Rich Dad Poor Dad has several. 1. Oversimplified definitions of assets and liabilities. Kiyosaki defines an asset as anything that puts money in your pocket. But in reality, some assets don't cash flow. Growth stocks, land. Some liabilities can become assets, like a house in a rising market. Some assets actually lose money, bad rentals, failing businesses. His definition is useful but not universally accurate. 2. Not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. The book pushes entrepreneurship strongly, but the truth is, not everyone has the personality to run a business. Not everyone enjoys risk. Not everyone wants to manage employees or properties. And that's okay. The book sometimes makes regular employment sound like failure, which alienates people who simply enjoy their career. 3. His real estate advice doesn't fit every market. Kiyosaki often promotes real estate as the easiest path to financial freedom, but some markets are overpriced. Interest rates fluctuate, maintenance can be expensive, laws differ by country, and tenants can cause issues. Real estate can be powerful, but not as universally simple as portrayed. 4. He downplays the role of luck and inequality. Kiyosaki emphasizes mindset over circumstance, but the reality is that wealthy families pass advantages to their children. Some people grow up in environments with fewer opportunities. Systemic factors influence mobility. Mindset helps, but the book can make it sound like anyone who doesn't get rich is simply thinking wrong. That's too narrow. 5. Lack of practical, step-by-step instructions. Readers often finish the book inspired but confused. There's philosophy, but not enough how to invest, what to invest in, how to analyze a business, how to find deals, how to manage risk, how to start inexpensive income streams. To be fair, the book's purpose is mindset, not tactics, but many readers hope for more. How this book fits into the larger intellectual landscape. A great summary doesn't isolate the book, it contextualizes it. Here's how Rich Dad Poor Dad aligns with, conflicts with, and complements other major finance and self-improvement works. 1. Rich Dad Poor Dad versus The Millionaire Next Door. These two books appear similar, but their philosophies diverge dramatically. Rich Dad: take risks, build businesses, leverage debt, acquire assets, think big. Millionaire Next Door: live below your means, save aggressively, avoid debt, be frugal. Both paths create millionaires. Rich Dad builds entrepreneurial wealth. Millionaire Next Door builds quiet, conservative wealth. They are not competitors, they describe different archetypes of success. 2. Rich Dad Poor Dad versus Atomic Habits. These books operate in different domains, but share a common principle. Systems outperform willpower. Kiyosaki says, build assets. James Clear says, build habits. One targets money, the other targets behavior. Together, they form a powerful formula. Right habits, right decisions, right investments, right outcomes. Atomic Habits strengthens the mindset needed to execute Rich Dad's philosophy. 3. Rich Dad Poor Dad versus Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill focused on mindset and visualization. Kiyosaki focuses on cash flow and education. Hill teaches desire, persistence, belief. Kiyosaki teaches numbers, assets, structure. Combined insight: mindset creates the direction. Financial literacy creates the engine. 4. Rich Dad Poor Dad versus the Intelligent Investor. Benjamin Graham teaches conservative investing. Avoid risk, use margin of safety, don't speculate. Kiyosaki teaches aggressive wealth creation. Embrace risk, use leverage, think entrepreneurially. These philosophies conflict, but that's good. Your audience learns that wealth building exists on a spectrum, not a single path. 5. Rich Dad Poor Dad versus the modern FIRE movement. FIRE, financial independence, retire early, relies on high savings, index fund investing, and extreme frugality. Rich Dad relies on business ownership, real estate, leverage, cash flow. FIRE seeks freedom through discipline. Rich Dad seeks freedom through assets. Your viewers can choose the philosophy that fits their personality. How Rich Dad Poor Dad fits into today's economy. The world today looks nothing like 1997. So how does Kiyosaki's message hold up? Shockingly well, but with caveats. 1. The gig economy makes the rat race even worse. Today's workers face no pensions, unstable income, contract jobs, rising housing costs, high student debt, rapid technological change. The rat race is no longer a metaphor, it's a daily reality. Kiyosaki's message about building assets is more relevant than ever. 2. Technology has removed the gatekeepers. In 1997, starting a business was hard. Today, you can publish a book, sell a course, launch an online store, create YouTube content, build software, invest using apps. Technology supercharges the Rich Dad philosophy. Never in history has it been easier to start a business, build an audience, and generate cash flow. But the market is more competitive. With opportunity comes saturation. It's easier to start, but harder to stand out. This means that Rich Dad's emphasis on education, skills, creativity, sales, marketing is more important than ever.
4. Real estate is harder, but still powerful. Property values have exploded in many cities, but investing is still possible through REITs, real estate crowdfunding, out-of-state investing, house hacking, co-living models. The form of investing has changed. The principle remains. 5. The rise of digital assets fits Rich Dad's thinking. Digital products, courses, ebooks, videos, templates, software, generate passive income, the ultimate Rich Dad asset class. The internet is the new real estate. Your audience needs to hear this. 6. Financial illiteracy is worse than ever. Despite abundant information, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Credit card debt is at record highs. Most people cannot explain taxes. Many don't invest at all. The system hasn't changed. Rich Dad's warnings age like prophecy. The big synthesis, what it all means. Rich Dad Poor Dad endures because it gives people something they desperately need, a different lens for viewing money, work, and freedom. Its ideas are not perfect. Some concepts are outdated. Some advice can be risky. Some definitions oversimplify reality. But the framework is timeless. Think like an owner. Acquire assets. Learn continuously. Control your emotions. Use money as a tool. Escape the rat race. Build systems instead of relying on salaries. Understand the rules of the wealthy. You don't have to agree with everything. You just have to recognize the power of changing how you think. The conclusion and action plan. Let's distill everything into the 5 most important lessons you should walk away with, because if you only remember these, you've understood Rich Dad Poor Dad better than 99% of readers. 1. Wealth is created by mindset, not salary. Your financial life is determined not by how much you earn, but how you think about earning, saving, investing, and risk. Adopt the Rich Dad mindset. Money is a tool, not a master. 2. Assets buy freedom. Liabilities steal it. If it puts money in your pocket, it's an asset. If it takes money out, it's a liability. True wealth comes from relentlessly building assets, even small ones. 3. Financial literacy is the real education. Schools teach you how to work for money. The wealthy learn how money works. Understand taxes, cash flow, debt, and investing, or you'll be controlled by those who do. 4. The rat race is optional. You escape the rat race by creating income that doesn't require you to be physically present. Financial freedom happens when your passive income greater than living expenses. 5. Fear is the biggest liability of all. Fear of losing money, fear of failure, fear of looking stupid. These are the walls that keep most people poor. Courage is a financial skill, and, like any skill, it can be trained. Who should read this book and who will hate it? Who will love this book? People stuck in the rat race, beginner investors, young professionals who want a roadmap, entrepreneurs and real estate enthusiasts, anyone who grew up with traditional financial beliefs and wants to break free. This book resonates with people who feel something is off about the standard go to school, get a job, save money, retire formula. Who will hate this book? People who want step-by-step, technical investing strategies. Viewers who need strict accuracy over storytelling. Those who dislike simplified models of money. People who want to avoid risk at all costs. Kiyosaki won't give you spreadsheets, stock-picking formulas, or detailed tax code. His message is more philosophical than technical. If you demand precision over principle, this book might frustrate you. But if you want a mindset shift, this book is gold. Before this video ends, I want to give you something you can act on immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week. In the next 10 minutes. List your personal cash flow pattern. On a blank sheet of paper, draw 3 columns: assets, liabilities, expenses. Now, be brutally honest. List everything in your life that generates income, everything that drains it, and where your monthly money flows go. And once you've written it down, ask yourself one question. Is my life moving toward the rich dad pattern or the poor dad pattern? Because awareness alone can save you years of mistakes. If you want to go further, try this micro action. Buy one asset within 30 days. It doesn't have to be huge. $50 of an ETF, a used book to improve a skill, a small digital asset, a cheap piece of equipment for a side hustle. The goal isn't the size. It's to build the identity of someone who acquires assets. The Rich Dad path begins with tiny steps. If you found value in this deep dive, make sure to subscribe because we turn world-changing books into cinematic, long-form insights that you can actually use. And drop a comment telling me which mindset you grew up with, rich dad or poor dad. Your answer might help someone else rethink their entire financial life. Thanks for watching, and remember, money isn't the goal. Freedom is.